I know I need to size up with you, and when I defang the Viper, trust me, ain't gonna come from nowhere. Jeff, I already put you out. I don't even know why you're out here right now. Keep on talking. Hey, do me a favor. Why don't you act like this is an AA meeting and you shut your mouth while I'm sharing with the group? And Mustafa, you out here, a boy among men. And I'm gonna tell you what, you got lucky at the Rumble, so I know you're gonna come out here and run your mouth about how bad you are. But let me give you a little bit of a reality check. You see, Mustafa, you said that my eyes don't lie. Well, your eyes don't lie either, because last week, they were closed real tight when I put your simple ass to sleep. And AJ, hey man, be honest with me. How's our old girl Wendy doing?
Welcome back to the Clark Street Wrestling Podcast. It's me, Hafeez, and with me as always is Devin, and we do have a special guest with us today from Terrible Wrestling Takes. We have Bishop here live with us. Bishop, man, how you doing today?
What's up,
I'm
brother?
doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good, fellas. Thanks for the invite. You know, me and Dev been talking back and forth on Twitter for a while now, and I'm just glad I can make it happen. So much love for all the shout outs all the time on the show. Really do appreciate it. I listen every week on podcasts. Don't always catch the video, but I'm here to represent. I'm here to have a good time. So appreciate y'all having me on.
Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny, some of the takes, you know, I've heard some of the reactions to some of the takes, and, you know, even during the live stream, you know, we went at a little bit around AEW.
Yeah, we did.
So it'll be cool to, you know, get into, we'll talk about AEW a little bit here. So it'll be interesting getting your take on a couple things going on right now. So, but yeah, definitely a pleasure having you here, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And actually, you know, one of the first things that I got, because we got a list of topics we're going to go over here, is something that you sent out to me, Devin, about a critique of AEW in general when it comes to storytelling. So, and, you know, you sent me this, you were like, oh, this could be a good topic. I said, all right, let's see where this one goes. I mean, I didn't know at the time, Bishop, that you were going to be a part of this. So that's going to even make this even more interesting that we got this topic going on with you here. So let's see how this goes. But it was about long-term storytelling and the fact that, you know, with AEW, is it so much that they're good at long-term storytelling, or is it more of they're just telling stories that take a long time to get to their, you know, to the point of whatever the story was going to be? You know, in reading that, I kind of had my thoughts, but Devin, you're the one that sent it to me. So, you know, what sparked you to want to bring up that topic?
First of all, you know, I actually heard it from Bishop himself, man. This dude, the way he breaks shit down, you know, this is one of the reasons I brought him on, man, because he is great breaking it down, having a discussion, being very analytical too at the same time, and he makes some good points. So to bring him on the show, I had to do, and because he brought up a very good point about the Page and Omega, you know, how long it took. You know, everybody's saying that, hey, this is a great long-term booking, but he highlighted, I think, a very good flaw. He was like, hold on, is it a good long-term booking, or it's just because it took a long time? I'm like, wow, never seen it from that perspective there. So yeah, man, I thought it would be a good topic to bring up, man. Okay,
but where do you stand on that though?
That is a very good question, bro.
You can bring up the topic, but what's your stance, man?
You know, when I think about the TBS tournament and how long it took to get there, I'm like, okay, I see the pattern. All right. And I think, you know, when they first started the TBS tournament, when was it? Like maybe October?
Oh, probably.
Yeah. And then we just crowned one. Like they could have told like a secondary story. They could have timed it correctly. Like they could have, you know, but people saying, oh man, you know, they took, you know, with the TBS tournament, it was they took a good amount of time to book like a Jay Cargill or something like that. I'm like, you know, I look at the other side, I'm like, yeah, it feels like they took a while. Like they even show some of the matches. Like they skipped a few weeks, matter of fact, on Dynamite too. So I'm like, you know, like what are we doing? So yeah, man. So I think I'm leaning towards more maybe and I'm just being real. Maybe they do take a bit of a time to get there, man.
So you think overall that given that, you know, the TBS tournament, like storytelling, the amount of time it took for that tournament to finish,
even characters too,
and other things there, that in general that with AEW, it's more a sense that they're just like taking a whole lot of time and, you know, not really having you know, a actual structure to their stories. It's more of just like, you know, put together, but I guess whimsically going on and not really planned out to be the way it's going. Like it's kind of just we're just, you know, month by month, you know, dragging our feet versus actually like telling a story that's compelling with like twists and turns that are planned out and on purpose.
Especially like with Kenny Omega, like it was like a dry spot I think I had with him. And, you know, I think it was at that shift, that transition when he was forming a character with the belt collector. I'm like, okay, that's right up his alley. He's cocky as hell. I'm going to ride with that. And then they kind of just forgot about that. And they just went with this more of a, I don't know, quirky heel that I can't really connect with. And his wrestling is fine. But just, you know, that was a dry spot of developing on their way to get back to Adam Heyman Page, man. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, Bishop, man, I mean, you're here and, you know, you inspired this topic. So talk about it here on the show with us, man. Like, what's your perspective and what brought this about in you to even share that take?
So like I say on my show, Terrible Wrestling Takes, TWTakesPodcast.com for all platforms, TWTakesPodcast.com for TWTakesPodcast.com/TWTs. Sorry for the dopest merch out there. I ain't got beach towels, but I got t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? So,
they're coming.
But let me get that plug in because I introduced myself, but I didn't plug, and I'll probably plug another 4 or 5 times before we get out of here. But look, at the end of the day, it's always a conversation, right? And you see on Twitter, and even when Hafeez, me and you go back and forth on some things. At the end of the day, if you like what you like, that's cool, but we could talk about it. And I have no problem with anybody who loves the Hangman storyline. Like there was people who legit cried over it, and I respect that. But if you're not going to keep it a buck on what actually happened how it happened. The story is the story. They could have told that story in 4 months, but Hangman wasn't always around for 4 months. And just because he wasn't available doesn't mean the story continued. You press pause. It might take you 4 days to watch one movie. It's not a 4-day movie. You know what I mean? So from the perspective of actual storytelling, it's not like there was a cliffhanger and you got to come back to see what's going on. No, Hangman got written off because his kid was being born, shouts, you know. He came back to do some things, and now the story's back where it left off, but he's not really messing with Kenny. So because there was no, like, real intertwining, just because you touched 2 years ago and then you get the pin 2 years later, it's not a complete story told. It just took that long to get it done. However it got done, if people enjoy it, that's fine. But you got to call it for what it is. It's either an actual long-term story or it's a story that took a long time. One of the classic examples I bring up is Kane. The story of Kane, Paul Bearer put a little snippet in a promo, like I believe it was the Raw after WrestleMania. I know what you did, Undertaker. And then as it built all the way to, I think it was November, where they had that Hell in a Cell where he came out. And then they don't have the match until the following WrestleMania from when Paul Bearer said the promo. That's a long-term story where you keep digging, you keep adding, you keep biting, you keep doing. We're in the YouTube generation. We're in the TikTok generation. There's this way past long-term booking. You know, you can, like what Tony Khan said, that he had the first 4 champions booked out however he wanted. Okay. So he was telling a story to himself, and what we got on TV, which I don't watch much of, but at least I know how to look at it.
I mean, you know, I think what both of you saying is fair, you know, and like you said, Bishop, like to each their own on, you know, what you choose to enjoy and how you choose to, you know, to view it. And for you, you know, what I respect is you're being honest about your perspective. And I mean, it is what it is. You know, for me, I look at it as they had me invested in that story for the long haul. And were there times where I felt like, ooh, I'm not sure where this is going because Hangman is off television, or because Bryan Danielson comes in the company and then he has this match with Kenny, and now it's like, oh shit, is it going to be Bryan Danielson that's going to be champion instead of Adam? Like, what are they doing with the story? There were times where it was like, man, I don't know where this is necessarily going. But overall, like, I do still appreciate, like, for one, with Adam, it seemed like there was maybe a conversation or a thought about him being their first champion. And, you know, when he had that match with Jericho, I thought the right choice happened where Jericho ended up winning that championship. But I feel like his story has kind of been building up since then, where it was like, okay, this guy that was one of the first guys that was in conversation to be champion, didn't get the championship, and he's going through kind of a growing up process, you know, with, you know, teaming up with Kenny and becoming a tag team champion. Then he's, you know, battling these, you know, whatever things that are holding him back with the drinking and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, then there's the Dark Order and then wanting to befriend him. And he's like, oh, you know, I'm not really, you know, wanting to be with you guys, but, you know, I like what you guys are doing. You're cool, you know, and his split eventually with the Elite. And, you know, again, like you said, even when he decided he was going to team up with the Dark Order and they were all going to, you know, fight for those title shots, they lost because he had to be written off TV because he was having the child. You know, that was a gap for me, but I was still kind of like, okay, like I'm in the back of my mind, because I am wanting to see at this point him become champion. I'm like, he's probably going to come back. Like, when he's going to come back. And then when he did, like, I was back in. So I get what you're saying about the stalling and the pausing, elongating the storyline to a point where, you know, we shouldn't give them, I guess, complete credit for, you know, planning that out, because no, they didn't plan it out.
Right.
They're just going with the flow. They're just going
Right.
with what they were given, you know. So that I definitely, I hear you on, and I feel you on. But I was invested because I just felt like, you know, with him, I could see where they were going with it. And I did appreciate, instead of just saying, hey, let's make him champion right away, and then he probably flops, because I didn't even know who he really was, you know, to that level, you know, in the beginning. I know Jericho, of course, everybody knows Jericho, and I've heard of Hangman Page, but to say he was going to be the first champion, I'm like, I don't know if this guy's ready yet. And then they had him lose, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then you see them little by little, like, starting to have him round out his character. I'm like, all right, I'm and to a point where I find myself rooting for the guy. I'm like, damn, like I'm a fan now, you know?
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job of just like taking their time with him, and then little by little getting him to that point. And then him and Kenny and the whole, like, we're a team and then we split up. I think that was cool. But yeah, to your point, definitely it was a lot of happenstance. Like, a lot of it was just like, yeah, this is the situation we're in. So
well, you're even saying that you're invested in Hangman because you want to see Hangman get his due. You're not invested in the story that's happening. If Kenny lost to Bryan on Bryan's first match and Bryan's the champ, Kenny doesn't get a rematch and Hangman takes it off of Bryan when he first comes back, how crazy do you feel? It's also why I don't fantasy book, because I come up with great ideas like that and they never happen. So, but like in that way, you're so invested in Hangman, you can't believe Hangman just did this crazy shit that nobody's seen coming from a mile away, because nobody planned on Bryan being there when this story started. Right. You know, when all these things happen, and again, how long it took to get to the story doesn't sacrifice the quality of the story, but call it what it is. It was probably a 4 to 8 month story that took 2 years, like you said, because of happenstance, which is fine, but it's not long-term booking.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I feel like the only part that I would say is long-term booking is the fact that, and I mean, again, they're not planning for the 2 years, but the fact that they didn't give Hangman that championship right off jump, and they decided, hey, we're gonna ease you into this and like slowly build you up versus strapping the rocket on you right off the bat. That's where I feel like there was that mindset that we are going to take a long-term approach with him and try to tell long-term stories. Now, one critique that I do have of AEW, though, is that when it comes to some of their stories, it does seem like they, like, for instance, with the drinking with Hangman, that one really didn't go anywhere. They had that. It was interesting, but even now it's like, well, did he have a problem, or was it just like he just liked to drink? Like which one was it? Like there was no payoff for that. And I do feel like they do have a lot of like one-off matches where, okay, this person is going to fight this person this week, and then that's it. You know, they're not going to really tell a story that's going to last like a couple months and then lead off into a pay-per-view like traditionally I've been groomed to see by WWE, you know, in the way they do their, their shows, you know? So there is some of that, but I think there are ways in which, like, again, with Hangman specifically, the fact that they said, hey, we are going to take a kind of a long-term approach to build you up, you know, and experiment a little bit. You know, it wasn't one singular story that they told that got him to that point. You know, there were a lot of different beats and different moments, and then they took a turn here, a turn there, but eventually took a long-term approach with him. But I see what you're saying about specifically a story, like one concrete story. They didn't tell one story throughout that whole time.
But I think you hit the nail on the head, because everything you're saying is the arc of Hangman himself for 2 years. It's not Kenny and Hangman, even though he was the tag partner. They had some really good tag matches. They had good chemistry. But even the breakup from that, I mean, he just walked out on him. All right, see you. Like, there was no real visceralness. And the only time there was when he was getting rid off TV. So it makes you wonder if that's the only time that they wanted to add the actual the touching of the elite and all that, you know, going on. But I think what is more important, because for me, I would still be an AEW fan if Hangman was the first champion. I was sold right away. I thought he was an incredible athlete, did fantastic. He's a really good technical wrestler, power moves, all that stuff. And I heard a couple interviews before AEW started. I'm like, okay, this Hangman guy's got something, and we'll see what he looks like. And he doesn't really look like he's biting anybody's style. He's pretty unique. He's clean as far as like his in-ring work, and he doesn't flip a lot like all the other guys over there.
Right.
And when they went a different direction, I'm like, okay, and just because it's my opinion, I already think Hangman's good. Why would I watch him struggle for no reason? You know what I mean? So as you were invested more and more and more, the payoff of the investment of the character is why you hit the home run when Hangman gets the title, where I was like, well, he should have the fucking title for 2 years, you know?
Yeah. So what's interesting about it too with Hangman specifically and all this is that one thing that threw me off with him in the beginning was they were trying to interview him after he had won the opportunity to fight for the championship, and MJF comes out and he cuts a promo and Hangman doesn't say anything. And to me, I'm watching it, I'm like, dude, this is going to be the dude that you make the champion? Is this guy that, you know, he's in the ring? And if that's, you know, I'm thinking, hey, if you're the guy, you don't let that happen to you. You know, you don't let, you know, MJF or whoever just take
like Daniel
over.
Bryan? Isn't that what Daniel Bryan did? Daniel Bryan did it to him the night after he won the title.
Well,
same thing happened.
Exactly. Maybe that's
the damn show. I know this happens.
But to that point, I mean, maybe that is a thing with Adam Hangman, where when it comes to the mic skills, you know, that he's not that guy. But, you know, I feel like I'm more invested in his character now, to the point where, like, okay, like, I'm not going to let that make me think less of him now because I know him better. But then that was like one of my first impressions, and I'm seeing, okay, they're talking about this guy, Hangman Page. Okay, cool. And then here comes MJF, and he's cutting this promo, and I'm like, why is this dude not the dude that's fighting for the title right now? Like, this should be the guy. So, you know, I'm thinking, okay, you can't have him, you know, beat Jericho right now. It's got to be Jericho, because we know Jericho has got, you know, the presence to be able to, you know, be a champion. We've seen it before. It's a name everybody's going to know. From a business sense, it makes sense. You're going to TNT, like, you want that face for, you know, casual fans to be able to say, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah. So, you know, whereas with Hangman, it was like, he's a little bit green. Who knows what he's going to do when he's on the mic? Is he going to, you know, freeze up? Like, what's going to happen? Let him build up a little bit, you know. And now, when a guy like Daniel Bryan, or even down the road when a CM Punk or Adam Cole gets in his face and starts talking to him, it's like, well, I know who he is, and I feel like I care more about him. So I'm willing to, you know, accept more of, like, if he's not just, you know, killing him on the mic, because I know when he gets in the ring what he's going to do.
He brings it.
and he's gonna bring it. Right.
Yeah.
So
he's great.
yeah.
Do you think they do a lot of hiccups to disengage their audience? Because I'm gonna be real, that's what happened with me with some of their storytelling. Like, for instance, with Adam Heyman Page, when he took that break, and when we was doing our rankings, I didn't have him in my rankings, man. I just had him in my honorable mentions. Like, I didn't really remember him, man, because the way they just eliminate him from the story. And I get it, man. Like they put a lot in his character, but to me, I enjoy storytelling. Like, I love characters, and I love the story that goes with it as well. And I think that's where they miss right there.
When he left, like when he took that break, you're thinking there was a hiccup there? Is what you're saying?
Well, right before he was, leaving out, man, I think they could have. I don't know, a way that if he was only going to be gone, he was only gone for maybe 2 months.
I forget how long it was, but
it wasn't long.
I feel like so the buildup, going into that, there was a lot of like Dark Order and Hangman Page teaming up, and they were going to go against the Elite. And Hangman was like, "Hey, if we win this match, we all get title shots, right?" And so the buildup to that, I felt like it hit a high. Remember, he had that entrance with all of them, and we were sitting here like, damn, like this is sick, like he's got the purple gear intertwined in the cowboy theme stuff, and they all had the cowboy, gear and everything, and it was like, oh shit, this is gonna happen. This is the moment where, we know, like, hey, this title match is finally gonna happen, and then they lost, and it was like, oh shit, like I guess this isn't happening, and then you find out, hey, he's having a kid. That's why he's going away.
Yeah.
And that was the lull. And I mean, I don't know that I would even consider that, like, not talking about him during that time a hiccup necessarily, because again, we don't know, like, if this is real life stuff's going on. Like, he's a first time dad. I'm pretty sure, like, that's the way they kind of presented it. So maybe he doesn't know how long he's going to be out, and once everything got settled, it's like, okay, I can come back here. Boom. It's like, I think I feel like there are hiccups with, like I said, speaking specifically about Hangman, there are certain story points that it seemed like, okay, we're going to introduce this drinking thing. And I thought they were going to say, hey, you've got a problem. You're dealing with some stressful shit, and you're trying to drown your sorrows in booze. You need to get rid of the alcohol, get your ass in the gym, and start, focusing back in on being the best damn wrestler you can be. And then that would have been the story. Like the Dark Order is the one to say, no, like, drop the booze. Like, let's get you back to being you. Like, I thought that was going to be the story, but that never really happened. They're bringing beers in, like, here, man, have another drink, like, this is great. So, that story, I think there wasn't a clear, like, what are we doing with this? I think they were just having fun and, like, spitballing, throwing shit at the wall, and then quietly just kind of let that go and start going in a different direction. So I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like I enjoy overall what they're doing. Are the stories, the most compelling in the world right now? No, honestly, like, being real about it, because I can't tell you right now, like, one story where I'm just like, ooh, this story right here, like, maybe, I mean, even with Miro, right? Like, Miro's a wrestler that, we've talked about on the show. Like,
I'm more invested in his character than what's going on with the story. He had a story when he was champion. Like, we thought, the way they just built him and the way he was just, praising God, we felt like he was more of a true champion than Kenny Omega. Like, we thought, okay, he looked like he is the main champion, man.
But to the point of this, and I think this is where you're going to, is that his character, right, was very interesting, because the way he's cutting these promos and talking about being God's favorite champion and thanking God for his flexible wife Lana and all this other stuff, and he's being funny, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's entertaining, like, and that's like, okay, like, it grabs your attention. But then even the way he lost to Sammy, there wasn't like a build up to that happening. It just kind of was like Sammy was next in line and he beat him. There was an actual story where you saw little by little progressions in their rivalry. There was no rivalry. It was just these two guys. It's you're next. Hey, then Sammy won. So, as we talk about it, it's like, I feel like they're more on the, hey, we're just going to book matches and, have, like, just competitive matchups, you know, versus storytelling, you know, versus like actual, I'm going to tell a thought out, plot driven story, you know, and build a rivalry between this person and this person to where we're anticipating, you know, oh, these two, when they collide, I can't fucking wait. You know, yeah. I think with the only thing with what I just said, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here, is with Kenny and Adam, I did say that I thought Adam was going to beat Kenny, that he would be the one because of the split. And so I feel like, even though, was that the best story told? No, because again, the break that happened, you know, but I do think that that's probably, and I don't know how this is going to sound, but that's probably one of their stronger attempts at trying to have it be a longer term story. That, because out of the examples I'm trying to pull in my head, I can't think of any real rivalries, you know, going on with it. Like MJF and CM Punk right now, you know, you'd probably say that's one where they're taking a long-term approach and trying to build a story and build a rivalry between the two. Yeah. That's probably the next closest thing. So yeah, I mean, just being real about it, like it's the Kenny and Adam matchup, and then it's this one, this CM Punk and MJF matchup. What do you think, Bishop? So that story, I guess, just looking at what they're doing right now between CM Punk and MJF, like, have you been catching that? Like, what's your no? Okay.
No. It's like,
next
question. You can get real bad on here if you need to. But look, I thought maybe you were gonna say like MJF, Chris Jericho, right? If you want to say a story told for so long, that was probably their best long-term story told, because week by week they were getting you invested in the potential whatever was going to happen. Like you said, you're conditioned to what WWE does. Well, they bring people together for the purpose of breaking them up. And the way that they did it, albeit I didn't find very entertaining, it felt very shtick-like. But that's, I mean, it's wrestling. You know what I mean?
You like the sing-along, the musical, man? Like the
Broadway show?
Oh, it got like the greatest live event of all time or some shit like that. It won some award. Yeah, look, there's many platinum albums I don't listen to. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the end of the day, like, I think they are on a fine line of trying to figure out exactly what they're doing. But even because I found a hard time staying invested because, you know, they don't hold themselves accountable for their own ideas. You know, like, they just write it off as, no, look, we did this for, you know, this, we did this for that. And look, we're giving you MJF and CM Punk. And yeah, I catch the snippets here and there when something happens. But I mean, honestly, I think Punk wasn't talked about that much the last 2 weeks. And I just go based off a Twitter feed, because when he does something that, you know, like he sneezed on the mic one time and he was trending for 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't stand how much people love that guy. He shit on the business for 7 years. He shit on the thing that we watch for 7 fucking years. He shows up and they're like, oh my God. But that's another story. We won't have to go there. But no, look, if MJF or CM Punk say something different in a promo, let me know, and then I'll check it out. But it's always the same beats. You know, Cena comes back. What is he going to say? You know what I mean? It's the same beats. Yeah. He's a goat at it, but he also has an ability to draw you in. You guys, and I say this as a whole of AEW fans, you're drawn in by the star power of CM Punk and how comfortable MJF is in the ring. He doesn't look shook out there. He looks like he's going to command what's going on. And the one thing I'll give AEW for production value is when somebody's on a promo, they are focused on the face and you're getting all the emotion out of the character that's speaking. So, you know, I won't shit on them completely, but they don't pull me in because it's, but y'all are excited for it, so shouts.
Let me ask you this too, as far as WWE is concerned, when it comes to long-term storytelling. The Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. That's that's where I'm going. Yeah. So describe that, man. So as far as long-term storytelling, man, like just describe it. Like tell it from your perspective. What do you see that's working?
Yeah, my particular take on the Tribal Chief, it's very odd, because in the beginning, you know, a lot of people saying that it's Brock Lesnar booking. Oh, he's smash him, stack him, all this stuff, and very quick matches, protected by Paul Heyman, all the similarities are there. But when you look at what Roman is doing as a character, he's presenting vulnerability. Sometimes he had to cheat to win with his uppercut kickouts of pins. He would find his way to get the Usos on his side to do his bidding beforehand, so he has compromised opponents. So there's a vulnerability within the character who presents himself as Tribal Chief. We the ones, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I've always been invested in Roman. He's one of the biggest reasons I got back into this. And then the whole crowd hated him. I'm like, oh, this is fucking crazy. I got to root for a guy that nobody likes. Okay. But no, like, so as far as like the booking goes, he is protected. But when you look at who he is now as a star, he's getting his proper treatment on purpose, not ironically. You know what I mean? So as far as the character, when it went from, oh, they're just giving him the Brock Lesnar thing, they're just pushing him down our throats again, to boos on purpose, to cheers on purpose. When he fucked over Paul Heyman on SmackDown, the crowd was cheering for Paul Heyman getting his due. Brock Lesnar comes out and gets the loudest reaction of all time.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns' ability as a heel has turned Brock Lesnar into the biggest babyface in wrestling. We the ones. We the ones. That's talent, man. And the story itself, I've never been lost on it. I've never been like, well, I don't need to see Roman this week. I don't need to see Roman this week. So as far as that goes, I'm hooked. I'm hooked all the time. And even here's the thing. Even when he's not there, the people that he leaves behind feel important. And then it's like, oh shit, we gotta watch next week for Roman. All right, I'm back next week. So and he's only missed a couple of SmackDowns. I think it's incredible work from an entertainment standpoint. But to your point, story wise, I think it's just story and character. The best story they've told, which I'm glad that the entire world got worked. But if you want to go to twtakes.com and find a platform, you can go back to SummerSlam where I told y'all that 26 seconds is the greatest thing that ever happened to Bianca Belair. Because what Becky has done since she's been back has drawn strength and character in the entire women's division by being herself. And she's uplifting the division through her own story. She just came out on a pay-per-view with goats on her shoulders, you know, and the people that are chasing her look so fucking important. I remember the We Want Liv chants, right? And people wanting Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan gets her due and she fumbles. She gets her due and she fumbles. And this opportunity, she's been given multiple chances and she gets better and better and better and better. As much as we all love Bianca's ability to wrestle or her athleticism, because I thought she had some hiccups, from 26 seconds on, she has become an undeniable talent that you want to see get her due. There was nothing to care about beforehand except for she's good, she should have it, right? Now that she got fucked over, it's like, well, when's she getting her due? Oh, not only that, she put on bangers with Doudrop, who's a hell of a wrestler in herself. So the story that was being told from SummerSlam on has built new stars, not superstars, but stars, new people to invest into. So it's like I said, we're in the YouTube generation. It's hard to captivate people for a long time, but when you look at the equity based off of, you know, moments, I think that's probably the best example of storytelling that WWE's been able to do lately.
What did you like about the Roman character, like the big dog? Because you said you was invested in that.
Yeah, so
I'd like to know about that.
Yeah, quick summary. 2015, my son was born in 2014. Whenever WrestleMania 31 was, I got back into it right after. Oh, that's what it was. Right after the Brock Lesnar Cena SummerSlam, where Cena got dog whooped. I didn't see that one, but I tuned in like the following week. And when I was help raising my kid at home, I was like, what am I going to watch? So I put wrestling on. I seen Roman. I was like, oh, he looked like somebody that I would have watched back in the day. He got the physique, the stature, the presentation, cool. And then that Samoan uppercut punch that he throws, I was like, yo, he throws a mean one. And of course, I didn't catch him slapping his arm to get the pop on it. I was like, is he laid into these dudes? When you can pull an adult out, you know what I'm saying? Like when you can pull an adult out of what this is, there's something there. So I gravitated to it and I'm like, oh, and he's actually pretty good. You know, I never liked the Superman punch. I think it's you know, because I'm a UFC guy and I've seen People land a Superman punch, and when they land a Superman punch, it's a wrap.
Right.
So, and then, you know, of course, the spear is something from our day. You know that it's almost a sacred move, because when Goldberg hit a spear in the '90s, good night. You know, so but the character, the way he presented himself, I'm like, okay, this guy's a star. And then all that stuff he had to go through, and I didn't really see. I hated Seth Rollins because I was like, man, he's such a good wrestler, but his character is just too fucking annoying. I didn't want to watch him, but his wrestling was incredible. And then Paige was the other one. It was Paige and Roman at the time that kept me in. But yeah, something about Roman, just he looked like somebody from back in the day.
Yeah, man. I feel you.
Like
so
I think the good one though.
right.
Okay, man. I just want to know, man, because I never hear really, you know, from that side of the fence of why they was invested into the big dog character. Because, you know, from the you already heard the critiques about the way they build the booze and all of that. I was part of that crowd. I wasn't feeling the big dog.
Well, that's the thing. That's another reason why I hate CM Punk, is because when I got back into this, it was before he went on Cabana's podcast and just dog shitted all over Roman and was like, nah, he's getting pushed. He wasn't supposed to be there. Supposed to be Chris Hero, whatever the fuck it was. And from that moment on, he was getting booed. But before that, he was getting cheered. Go back to I think it's TLC, and it was a #1 contenders match between Seth Rollins and Cena, and Seth Rollins was fucking over Cena. Roman comes through the crowd, and the crowd cannot stop cheering for Roman saving John Cena. The two people that get booed out the building the most.
Right.
The crowd was going bananas for those cheers. I think the podcast with Punk came out like 2 weeks later, and it was just a wrap from there.
I noticed it when there was a Rumble where it was, because the year before it was Batista that got all the boos. Everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to, you know, go to the WrestleMania. And then Batista, you know, he got eliminated, and you see Batista there. It's like, oh shit. But it was Batista and Roman at the end, and everyone was going nuts for Roman, wanted him to win that. Batista won. And I was like, oh shit. And I thought, okay, Roman next year will probably be the guy. Everyone's gonna love him. But it seemed so like maybe obvious. Like the way I interpreted it was, oh, he's the guy they're picking now this year. And again, the guys, you know, the underdogs that we want to go on, they're not getting to go to WrestleMania because of him. So all of vitriol went to him, which, you know, is unfair to Roman. Like, it's not his fault. Like, he's just going out here putting in work and doing his thing, and he's getting shitted on because the other guy that Vince chose or whatever isn't getting picked. So at first I'm like, this is unfair. But the only thing with me, and this is a WWE thing, is if you hear that, you hear those boos, just turn the man heel, because at that point, like, a lot of characters I feel get developed really well when they're heels. So, you know, for me, it was more of a frustration. Like, you just keep going with this, like, oh, you know, he's above it all and he's gonna, you know, fight through the boos, and, you know, like with John Cena, like, I'm not gonna turn heel, you know, I'm gonna stay true to my way. No, man, like, let's just have fun with this. And now with him heel, part of me too goes, and I've said this to you before, like, it almost makes me mad seeing how great he is. You hear him on the mic and these promos, like the things he's saying, I'm like, you held this version of Roman away from us for like this 5 years. Come on, man. Like, we could have had this. So, you know, it is what it is. But Roman, yeah, man, dude, he's awesome. Like, the way that I love, even in the ring, in the matches, the commentary that he has, like talking to these guys, telling them, you know, whatever he's just talking shit. I get into that even when it comes from a storytelling standpoint. Like, he makes his matches. He's not doing much as far as the matches, like moveset wise, but the slow pace and talking to him and wearing him down and having his presence felt like I feel it and I'm invested. It could be a 60-minute, you know, match, but the way that he does it, because of the way that he's, you know, the way he's presencing himself in these matches, it just it brings me in, you know, each time. So I think he's doing a great job. Now, storytelling wise, one thing I wanted to ask you about too was this Matt Riddle Randy Orton story. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, you know, now we've gotten to a point where it looks like, you know, we're changing things up and ramping things up for WrestleMania. They finally lost the titles, and this is probably the end of RK Bro. So as far as long-term storytelling goes, do you think? I mean, judging by your facial expression, it feels like you weren't feeling the story, right? So I'm already kind of reading.
Go ahead, keep going. I'll get you.
But do you feel like? I guess okay. So watch it. I'll tell you how I felt. So for me, I was shocked when this team even came together. Right, I thought, oh no way, he's gonna RKO him immediately. Like those first couple of weeks, I'm like, this is done. And then they kept going and going, and I'm like, how long are they gonna really go through this? And then it got to a point where I'm just like, well, I know it's gonna happen, but let's just go along for the ride. And I feel like Riddle was doing a good job of just being an annoying gnat, to Randy, and seeing Randy's like, oh God, just shut up already and let's just wrestle. Let's just win this match. Let's just do, like, what are you doing with the scooter and the mustache and the wig and all this shit? Like, no. So, and then to see Randy kind of come around and like kind of root for Riddle and kind of take him under his wing as like his little brother. I'm like, okay, all right, this is something. Like, that's where I felt like the story actually got more interesting, is seeing Randy start to bring Riddle in and care about him. And he's like, I know you got something to say. Like, what do you want to say? Go ahead and say it. Get out the way. Go ahead and say it. Like, just being able to accept Riddle. And just when he starts really accepting this dude, now they lost. And so now it's probably gonna, the shit's gonna hit the fan. He's gonna, who knows? Maybe it'll be this Raw. Maybe it'll be a Royal Rumble. I don't know. Maybe. I think that this back half of their story has been the most interesting. But what's your take on their overall journey?
So this is a perfect example of a terrible wrestling take, because it's about the conversation. Because you're right. Like, look, I'm not afraid to say country music is good. I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, there's many platinum albums I've never listened to and won't listen to.
Right.
I cannot stand stoner humor when it's like, hey Randy. Hey, Randy, like, that's so fucking annoying because it doesn't get anywhere. And the character's been so overblown for so long. And just like Kenny Omega, Matt Riddle is exceptional inside the ring.
Yeah.
He is exceptional. Character work, I'm not invested at all. There's nothing about Matt Riddle talking or doing things I want to see. But I'm marked out for Matt Riddle being in the ring with Walter on 2.0. Because I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. That from a physical perspective. Do I care that he came down on scooters? No, I'll just wait till the bell rings. So I hated RK Bro from the beginning as well because of how the characters were set up. Then Randy made him lockbox the lips, right? That you can't talk no more. As they kept growing and growing. And then, like you said, towards the end now, he doesn't need the lockbox. And then what does he do? He starts, going off with the Viking Raiders or cheering on other teams, and he's getting out of pocket again. And then Randy's got to rein him in. And then it's at some point, yes, it's going to be too much for Randy. It blows up. I get the story. The story's cool. Y'all love it. Go for it. I cannot stand Riddle's character. So I don't get invested. When they wrestle, though, lights out. I mean, Randy's been on such a wave for like 4 years now. Yeah. Like, it is incredible how seamless his work is. And to watch the maturation of their tag team is cool. And they are a really good tag team. But I'm not invested in the bro part of it. It's the character itself just fucking bothers me. When he tones it down, cool. And I get the story. The story's played out real well. Cool. But it's not me. It's not me. Is it a really, can I admit that it's a really good story? Yes, I can. I don't like it.
Okay. That's fair.
Like what you like. I get it, bro.
Now, question, and this is getting in a little bit of fantasy booking here, but do you think they should just go ahead with the? I'm just going ahead and say it. Do you think, because we're getting to it here right now. So the clear route for this is Randy, RKOing Riddle. But do you think it would be more interesting to see Riddle be the one to turn on Randy and then maybe have kind of a change in character to where he's a little bit more serious and maybe he's not hearing the voices in his head and that kind of transforms him a little bit?
I think that's a great way to do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. When Randy and Bray were going at it and, Randy's character was starting to shift a little bit deeper, a little bit darker because he had to go to a space to overcome some things. That shift in character always brings something out of the performer themselves. So I would kind of, if you want to go that deep and have, Riddle switch because when you work with Randy, you get vibes the way he gets vibes. I think that's a great way to go about it. Again, I don't think it'll happen, so that's why I don't like fantasy booking. But if I tell you, because they don't, I mean, Matt Riddle, he doesn't wear shoes, not because he's a surfer stoner. It's because he's a legit MMA fighter. Lean into that and bring that out of Riddle in this Randy feud. So when Riddle does win, it doesn't look like he just tricked Randy. Oh, sorry, Randy, I got one on you. You fell over my flip-flops. Like, nah, man. Like, but the money's there. The two of them wrestling each other, I'm here. Sign me up. Sign me up. So if you do it the right way, but yeah, the intrigue for me would be Riddle shifting to something stronger, because now, like we were talking about with Becky in the women's division, you now have a Riddle who's ready. You have a Riddle who's now a superstar. He's already a star. He's a superstar now because Randy helped him get to that level by showing there's diversity beyond scooters and smoking weed and pigeons or whatever flies out.
Facts.
So you think there's a chance that Riddle can evolve his character then? Something more, like you said.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Maybe change up his wrestling a little bit.
He's been one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He's been one-dimensional character-wise. It's been bro stoner as opposed to, again, even his MMA. And his style in ring is very, like, fast MMA style. So, I don't know. I would like to see it. I'll tell you what, I would be more invested. I would be more invested in Riddle if he shifted his character.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about it because I feel like there is that potential. There is that potential for this to kind of tweak Riddle a little bit, because I'd always been concerned about Riddle since he gotten called up. You know, and with we know the history with NXT guys getting called up, and he's one of the guys that's lasted one of the longest out of most of the call-ups that they've had recently. So, but I always like, I don't know if his character really, works or fits in totally. And him being teamed up with Randy and it lasting this long, I've been surprised. I really have. But I do think that it would be cool, like a couple times when, you can see him during the matches, getting a little bit more aggressive, when he's wanting to do the RKO and doing stuff like that, where I'm like, man, what if this just becomes a part of his character? That vicious side. And I love what you said about, the MMA side of him. Like, bring that out more. Like, that would be totally cool. So hopefully we do get that. Now
there's a chance because he does do the RKO.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it could be leading that route to him just being like more of a vicious guy himself. But switching gears just a little bit too. The Forbidden Door being open in WWE. Like, that's kind of one of the hot topics right now. Like, perhaps. Mickie James, perhaps. Mickie James, Impact Knockouts champion, being in the Royal Rumble. It's kind of sparked this conversation around like, oh, is the Forbidden Door open now? Like, is Vince McMahon open to? I personally am not buying into this at all. Like, I just feel like it happens that Mickie James, who had a pretty long history in WWE. She's now in Impact and she's champion, and that just kind of happened. But they're probably just looking for people to put into the Rumble, and they're looking at all the names of legends that they've had, and said, "Hey, Mickie James, cool." Vince may not have even known that Mickie James was in Impact. To be honest with you, he's like,
"I'll agree with that."
You know what I'm saying? like Vince, she's in Impact. Well, I don't know. Call her anyway.
Yeah, she'll make an impact.
Right? Exactly. Right. So I'm not buying in. I mean, it's just against everything that we've known, Vince and WWE to be about. They don't even acknowledge that these other companies exist, let alone be willing to work with them this openly. I mean, back in the day, like, they had a relationship with ECW, Evolve, they had relationships with, like, but to actually say, AEW, Impact, I mean, New Japan, I know there was talks
they played
about
with that a little
New
bit.
Japan, for Daniel Bryan at the time, they wanted to see if they could work something out. But I'm not feeling it. I won't believe it until I see it. That's where I'm at with it. Where are you guys at with this? It seems like we're kind of in the same boat, but where are you guys at with all this?
Go ahead. Get a guess, man. Yeah, get a guess. Go ahead.
Look, I think I think the whole Forbidden Door thing's been overblown anyway. Because even in AEW, it didn't do anything for Impact. They're not any better off for it anyway. All they would do is go on to Impact. You know, Kenny would be there, squash everybody. He lost the title on an AEW show. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what benefit does that bring? And then he lost it to Christian. And shouts to Christian, but Christian's not going to bring as many eyeballs back over to Impact as somebody with, you know, a higher standing. Even if it was, honestly, even if it was like the Big Show, wouldn't the Big Show bring more eyes to Impact? You know, so again, fantasy booking, not quite going to do that. But when, you know, we forget, again, in the 90s, they worked with NWA when they had the NWA Tag Team Champions show up. They worked with some of the Japanese wrestling organizations, specifically for Bull Nakano being over there. They had the relationship with, oh man, I'm drawing a blank, but the movement that brought over Kaientai and it was Haikushi, I think, but like there was a couple of them that came over and kind of say, wait, they've always been willing, the worst phrase they use, to do what's best for business, right? If it makes sense, they're going to do. I maintain this. I maintain this from the gate. I don't think WWE was ever worried about AEW. I think WWE was always worried about doing what's best for them. If what's best for them is having a show on the same night as AEW, they'll do it. If it's not, then they'll move it. And when they moved it, there hasn't been talk of competition at all. There hasn't been talk of anything like that. So the Forbidden Door, what is it ever been? You know, if anyone's got the key to Forbidden Door, it's Scott D'Amore. You know what I'm saying? He's opened it to everybody. Everybody's allowed to touch Impact. He got everybody going on over there.
You cool? You come through.
He's like, come on in, maybe.
Yeah. But, you know, I do think WWE has an issue, because I don't work there, so I can just speculate, right? I think they have an issue working with talent that they can't sign to some type of deal. So when, and it's this again, I might be an AEW fan if this took place. When the New Day hosted WrestleMania, they were trying to get Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks to have a match at WrestleMania, and they couldn't get the deal done. And I don't know why, I don't know how, but they were doing the video game stuff like weeks before that, you know, months before that. They're talking to each other on Twitter. The rumblings are there. I never saw one Young Buck match before that. I saw one or two of the Kenny Okada matches before that, and I was like, you know what? Based off of hype alone, I'm down to see it. You know what I mean? And the New Day at the time, I mean, that you're talking peak of the powers. People were so mad that they had to host WrestleMania instead of have a match. Meanwhile, they killed it hosting WrestleMania. So, you know, all things considered, I do think that WWE has a problem negotiating the proper terms of contracts for talent that's not going to be theirs, which is why even the Evolve deal didn't really do much, you know? Right. So I would like to see it. I would like to see, you know, all this, like Josh Alexander is amazing. He's a phenomenal wrestler, and he gets 200,000 views on the shows he's on because he's on Impact. Well, bring him over, step him in front of Seth Rollins or Cesaro, or you know, even throw him to the Wolves and the Tribal Chief. Like, what are you? And what am I? And then you know, you see the work. It you know, so there's definitely options. And I know Moose was saying some shit, and like at the end of the day, I did speculate this.
That brother.
I did speculate a lot of disrespect to the Tribal Chief. At the end of the day,
I'm the pro wrestling. I'm the god of pro wrestling. Like God.
What if all these cuts, all this money moving, isn't to sell, but it is to buy? What if they just fucking buy Impact? Say, just cut the check, buy the whole thing. You know, just acquire the roster, do the whole thing. But that's you know, that's just as dumb as people saying they're going to sell. They're going to do what's best for them all the time.
Right.
But yeah, that Mickey James that's convenience. It's got to be convenience. I didn't think it was anything more than that.
Yeah, people going crazy. I'm like, no, stop it.
But you just said if they can possibly buy Impact, that's not far fetched because
I opened a can of worms. My bad.
Well, I'm just saying because you know what? Because wrestling is a business, and I always look from the business side of it. And people need content, and this is we're in this digital streaming age. Live TV it's like dead right now. You know, everybody's on all these streaming things. So it's not that far fetched, you know. It's like it's a chance. It's not likely, but still a chance though, you know, because of this. You know, everybody needs content, so I think it could. But Forbidden Door, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think it was just a way to, like you guys said. I even mentioned this on the way. Shout out to the Queen's Takeover podcast. I was a guest on their show.
Shouts.
And we brought up that subject, and I said, I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing that Vince McMahon is doing just because it's Mickey James. I'm gonna let you in. We're gonna name you. We're gonna mention your title. You're the Impact Women's Champion. And
I don't
that's
think
what
they're gonna do that. I don't think so.
If they do it, I don't know.
Did, but I don't think he was thinking. I don't think that was like a directive. In his ear, like mention she. No, I think he just said it because he's a fan of wrestling and he knows that.
So Pat McAfee just ad-libbed that.
He'd rather
they
give
just
McAfee
roll with that.
credit for bringing it up than saying Vince did something good. He had to be fed that line. He had to be fed that line by Vince.
I don't think so.
Give Vince the credit. They made the deal. This is what was said.
I'll give him credit for not editing it out. they do that shit all the time. But
they get the extra credit.
Right. I give him credit for that. McAfee went a little rogue on that one, man. Like, oh, yeah. Just he was having fun. It's McAfee. Oh, man. No shade to Vince on that one, man. It is what it is, but that man, he's not trying to show any love for anybody else.
Yeah, neither's TK. So keep that same energy.
True. Yeah, dude, man. Oh my God, we went in on TK last week. So
there ain't nothing but Vince McMahon Jr., bro. I swear.
Whew.
He ain't no better.
Man.
He's just an entitled billionaire.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
No, he's the entitled son of a billionaire.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Sure,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He has $1 billion allowance. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Dad, I got an idea. I
Golly.
want to do this pro wrestling. I need $1 billion. Here you go, son.
Don't forget. Oh, man. Well,
all right, guys. That's going to wrap up for part 1. Be on the lookout for part 2 along with the After Hours episode as well. Don't forget about that. And you can always find the awesome podcast and the video platform on our website, ClarkStreetWrestling.com, ST for the abbreviation. And don't forget about our merch. We got some great merch for you. Beach towels, hoodies, coffee cups, notebooks, even blankets. Yeah, I said it. We got blankets for this winter time up in here in the Shire to get all warm and closer to your significant other. So don't forget about it. ClarkStreetWrestling.com/store for your pleasure. It is decided.